So in today's lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to set up hidden passageways similar to the game Hellblade. So here we have a world with some hidden passages. So we're going to use that one to get rid of this block that's right here. So we need to get past this rock to get up to that gate up there. And we're going to use that gate to spawn in a bridge that allows us to cross this river. So let's show you how this is going to work. And as I do this, I'm just going to walk you through the... As I do this, sorry about that, I'm going to walk you through the plan for the lesson. We're going to do a gray box version of it, and then we're going to come back to this world, and we are going to get it to work there. I see the passageway just went. We don't have any special effects. We'll go up these stairs. And this is pretty much a gray box as is, but we have a little bit more of a look to it. A little bit more of a stylized look. And once you do the gray box, we'll come back to this world and we'll actually create the environment, or sorry, not the environment, but the setup that you see. I should not have jumped down from there. I don't have any health to worry about. And we'll make it so that you have these gates tied to each other, or they can be independent of each other. That said, what you're going to do is you're going to need to fire up your editor and start a new third-person BP. I'll see you in a minute. So we're going to start with our gray box test of everything, and to do that, what you want to do is load in your third-person environment, and then from this gray box, I'll show you how I created that little bit at the very beginning. So when you load in your third person, the only difference, you don't need any of these things, except for the blueprint folder. The only difference outside of these extra folders, which I've used to create the environment that I showed in the very beginning, is I've removed the third person's ability to jump. So I'm hitting space, nothing happens. They can jump down, but you cannot make them jump. So first thing you need to do, create a blueprint folder. Once you've done that, and you can ignore the two things in here, these were just for that preview at the very beginning, is you're going to right click and you're going to create a new blueprint class, and it'll be of actor, and we'll name this passage key. And let's just open that up, pin that into here. And I don't like this orb sitting there. I don't like the default scene root at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a new component, and it'll be utility scene. And I'm just going to drag that over the scene component so it erases it. Compile so we get rid of it down here as well. Next, I'm going to add in a static mesh. And this static mesh is what the player is going to look through as their sort of like archway that you saw at the beginning. And I'm just going to name this as my passage view. And this will be of any static mesh you want, but for now, since we're gray boxing it, I'm going to take a wall, and I'm going to look for one with a window. And I have two options. I'm just going to take the bigger of the two, because then the area we're looking through is slightly bigger. Okay, so that's what we're going to look through when we want to trigger it. And you know, I want to know what the front of this is going to be, just because it looks the same on both sides. You know, I can see here where the front is. I'm going to add in just an extra mesh that I'll delete later on. But this is just for the gray boxing, so I know what the front is. And this will be my front facing. And my front facing, I'm just going to add a simple sphere here. And I'm going to use the shape, and I'm going to reduce the size, so that's massive, to 0.25, 0.25, 0.25. I'm just going to drag this up right about there. Actually, I'm going to put it a little bit higher and a little bit farther forward, so that when I spawn this into the world, I know, hey, this side is the front. The next thing I need is I need a box collision. So I'm just going to highlight my scene again, and I'm going to type in box under add component. And I'm going to spawn in a box collision. Alright, so the box collision, we need it mostly on the back side here, but we do want a little bit on the front, just in case a person looks the wrong way through the archway. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the box collision to about 200. So it's in the center of this 400 by 400. Remember, that's the size of this wall here. And I'm going to put the Y at about -6. 60. Oh, not negative. There we go. Negative 60. And the Z will be at about 30. So it's raised up a tiny bit. And then for my scale, I just want to increase the x-axis by 3, so it's a bit wider. And the y-axis by about 0.50. Or sorry, 5.0. So we have a bit on both sides of the wall. All right. So just that sets up what we are going to spawn into the world. Now we need to give these things functionality. So let's go into our event graph and let's remove the defaults that we don't need. We don't need any of these, by the way. And then let's compile that. Let's go back to our viewport and select our box here. And we want to have a end overlap and begin overlap. So we want on component begin overlap. Click that. Select the box again, and on component end overlap. Compile. Go into your event graph again. And in here, I'm just going to move this down so I have a bit of room to play with. In here, what we're going to do first is we're going to check what is overlapping it. You want the third person template to be what's overlapping. So we're going to check from the other actor. And we're going to do a cast to third person character. There we go. And then we're going to set this as a variable. So we're going to drag off as third person character, promote to variable, and this will be our third person char ref. Actually, I'm just going to name this character ref. And all this is doing is checking, is what's overlapping this box the third person? If so, we're creating a reference to it. I'm going to put this in a references category just so we have it nicely separated out from our components there. And then what we want this to do is we want this to trigger an event. So we're going to create a custom event in a moment. Let's just set up for getting that ready though. So we're going to do set timer by event. And we are going to loop this. And we are going to loop it every tick. So every 0.1 second, every tenth of a second actually, not every tick. So that this event will fire off at this rate as long as a person is standing in the collision area. And let's just drag off of this return value. And this is the timer itself, this return value. So we're going to promote that to a variable, or it's a timer handle, that is. And I'm going to name this collision timer. And let's just name this, put this in a category of timer, just so I have it separated out again. So again, we're checking who's entered the area. If it's the right person, cast. If it's the right person, then we're going to make a reference to it, and we're going to trigger an event. And we're going to set a timer based off of that trigger. Let's drag this bit down further there. So I'm going to right-click on the graph, and I'm going to do custom event. And this custom event is going to be called set trigger off. It's not the best naming convention, I realize, but it's meant more to show you how I'm thinking about this sort of stuff. And what we're going to do on this event is we're going to trigger the third person to engage in some line tracing. So we have to actually set that up here though. So what we want to know is the character facing the right way? So when we spawn, let's look at our viewport for a second. When our character walks into this, if they're facing this way, we don't want them to be engaging in this line tracing, especially as, you know, looking this way might trigger a different event that we don't want to have happen. We want them looking through the window. We want them looking the correct direction. Now, this took a bit of effort to work out how to do, because I had to actually work with the numbers to see what directions worked. But when we think about it this way, when we think we want them to face a certain way, that means we're going to need a branch. So let's put a branch in. And the condition is what is a bit tricky on this one. And this, again, is what took me a little bit to work out. So we have this third person reference. We're just going to take that. We're going to get it. And actually, we're going to need a little bit more room to get all this in here. We want to target the mesh. So target mesh. Actually, hang on. Sorry, let me just drag off this. We're going to do mesh. So we want to get the mesh. And we also want to get the passage view as well. There we go. Now we want to get the world rotation of both. So we're going to get world rotation. And we're just going to duplicate that down here and plug that into there. So we're getting the world rotation of both the static mesh and of the passage view. The next thing is you want to get the difference between these two values. And the easiest way to do that is to do a delta rotator. So that returns the difference in the rotation between these two values. That's going to tell us what way we're facing when we're in the collision box. We don't care about the entire rotation. We only care about the rotation on the Z axis. So we're going to split this structure. We're going to drag off of this, and we're going to do in range. It's going to be in range, so float. And as you can see, I still need more room. That is, I forget how long this can get. And we want this to be in the range of about -30 to about +30. And we want to include the minimum maximum. So this is equal to or less than the max, or equal to and greater than the min. And we want to make sure it's not either of those, any of those values. So it's going to be a not boolean there. And if it's not either of these, then the character is facing the direction we want. And we're going to plug that into our condition. Next, what we'll do is this will trigger off an event in our third person. We're going to take care of that in a second, though. Let's just finish out what happens when they leave this box component here. So, if they leave this box component, we want to check, is it this person that's leaving, not something else? And if it is, then we want to end the looping up here. So what we're going to do is then we're going to come in here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to check, are we, the character, leaving the collision area, or something else leaving the collision area? So we'll take other actor and we're going to do equal. So is it equal? And what it's going to be equal to is this character reference we've already made. If these things are equal, if this is a true statement, then we want to end the event that we're going to trigger up here, and we want to end the looping that's up there. So the easiest way to do that is we'll do the clear and invalidate timer by handle. And we have our handle right here. Now, this means that we still have to consider all those other little parts that, have to be triggered off inside of the character. So let's go do that right now. Let's compile and save this. Oh, yeah, hang on, before we do that, actually, let's take care of this event. We're going to create an event. So this is our event dispatcher, and the event we're going to create here is a set trigger off. So let's grab that and do set trigger off. There we go. Now we can compile. Now, nothing's going to happen because there's nothing at the end of this branch. It's just going to loop through this branch repeatedly. All right, so we wanted to loop through this branch because if they're facing the wrong direction and they turn while they're in the collision box, then we want what's on this true, what will be on this true, to fire off. Okay, so the next bit then is we need to open up our third-person controller, or our third-person mesh. So let's go into our third-person BP, go to our blueprints, and open up this third-person character. As you can see, everything is in here except for the jump stuff, which I have already removed, and I think I commented about that earlier. All right, so we're going to have a couple of custom events. We're going to have 3 custom events, actually. So the first one is going to be our trigger C. So this is where they're going to be able to see through the archway and remove the blockage. So we are going to have another timer in here, oddly enough. And this one will be, again, set timer by event. This one will also loop, but it won't loop as often. It will loop every 1/5 of a second, or every 1/2 second. That's not a 1/5, sorry about that. And again, we are going to promote the return value, our handle, to a variable. And we'll name this one C passage timer. And again, I'm just going to toss this into a folder that we'll call timer. There we go. And the event it's going to create, what we'll have down there is the ability to see through the passageway. And that event is what's going to be the line tracing by channel. So we're going to do custom event, and this will be see hidden passage. Now, before I make the mistake I just made in the earlier part, we're going to drag off this event, and we are going to do create event, and we're just going to do the trigger, oh, not trigger C, we're going to do see hidden passage. All right. Now, this is going to trigger this event to occur every half second. What we're going to do here is we're going to shoot a line out from the mesh towards through the window. So we will drag from here, and we will do line trace by channel. You don't want the multi-line trace, you just want line trace by channel. And we're going to grab our mesh inherited here. We're just going to bring it into here. So we're getting our mesh. Let's give ourselves a bit of room to play with. And we want to get we're going to use one of the particular sockets. So we're going to do get socket location. And the way I worked out what socket location I wanted was I actually tried, sorry, I opened the wrong thing. In this viewport, I had tried attaching things to the character to see where it was coming from, and I just worked out that the best one to get the line I wanted came from the spine. I thought it would come from the head, honestly, and I was completely wrong. But do try other sockets and see what comes out. So we're going to do spine 0, 3. I'm going to put a reroute in here because we're going to take something else from this mesh. Now if we go back to the viewport and let's highlight the mesh for a second, you'll notice that the mesh is rotated already. So we want to get the forward vector, which is not this way. The forward vector is actually that way. The vector which the character is facing, however, is the right vector. This is actually on the right axis. So we are going to go back in here and we are going to get the right vector. We already are plugged into the mesh. I don't know why I highlighted that one. So we're going to get the right vector. Now, this socket location will be the start of our trace. This is where the line that we're drawing comes from. It's going to travel, quote unquote, forward from the mesh. Now, really it's traveling along the right vector, but from the player's point of view, it's forward. So we're going to put a reroute into here. And we are going to drag off this forward, and we're going to multiply this as far as we want it to go. So it's going to be vector times float in this case. And we're going to multiply this vector by about, I'd say, 2,000. Now this number is going to vary depending on what you're doing. In fact, it actually might not be big enough or long enough for what we're going to do later on. I'm just going to put another reroute in here to make this a little bit neater looking. All right. We are going to take this value here, and we're going to add it to this right vector. By adding these two vectors together, what we are doing is we are going from this start point here, and when we're traveling out 2,000 units from that start point, and that will be our end vector. All right, now that we've done that, we have shot a line out. We've started from the unit. We've shot out a line 2,000 units, or 2,000 centimeters, or Unreal units. We need to know what we've hit. And if we've hit the right thing, then we want to be able to change the environment. So remember, we're moving a blockage. So we're going to actually pause here on this part and move over to a new blueprint. Let's go back into our blueprints folder. And what we need to do is actually have our hidden passageway. So that's what we want to see if we're hitting. And again, for the gray box portion of this, we are just going to do it a bit differently. So right click, do actor, and this will be our hidden passage. And again, I'm going to get rid of this little floating ball thingy, and I'm going to do add component, scene, whoops, sorry, not the scene component camera there. Add component, scene, drag this over the default scene route there, compile so we get rid of it down there. And I'm going to add in a couple of static meshes. So I'm going to add in I'm going to add in one static mesh for right now. I'm going to add in a static mesh. I'm going to name this one blockage. This is going to be whatever is blocking the user's way. For now, the blockage will just be a simple box or a simple cube. So I'll do the material cube, which will be the 1M cube. There we go. And I'm going to put a collision box. Sorry, actually, I'm going to highlight scene, and I'm going to do collision box around this, and we're going to just scale this up a bit. We're going to do 5 in the X, 5 in the Y, 1 in the Y, and 5 in the Z. And then we're just going to move it up a tiny bit. We're going to move it up just so the bottom of it lines up with the bottom of that box there. There we go. It doesn't need to be the same width as the box. It might be useful if it is, but you know, for what we're doing, it doesn't need to be. All right, I'm going to compile and save this for now. And if you want, you can add another sort of static mesh in. It's an optional static mesh, so let's add that in just to test things for now. We're going to do static mesh. And I'm going to use a passageway, so I'm going to name it. Now, you don't need anything in passageway. But as I said, this is just for the gray boxing. I'm going to show you what you can do with it. We are going to add in another wall, but this time I want a door. And I'm going to take the, again, 400 by 400, so we have a big target. And I'm just going to move this wall so it's in the center of our target area. Okay, that works for ooh, that does not actually work too well, does it? Yeah, the character couldn't get through there anyway. So it doesn't need to be perfect. This just gives you a rough idea of placement for the gray boxing of this. And I'm going to compile and save this. So we now have a target. Sorry, not target. We now have a passageway, a blockage, and our scene route. Now we could do something to make this the front versus back as well, but it really doesn't matter. This can face either direction for now. So we're going to save this. All right, we've already done that. We're going to go back to our third person character now. Now we have a target that we can hit. So we want to drag off our hit result here, and we want to break this result. What we want to know is what we've hit. So we want to get the class. We want to know, is the object of the class hidden passage? So we're just going to drag off of this and do equal, and then we'll search for hidden passage. If it is equal, then we want to continue, and then we want to carry on. So we're going to put a branch here, and we're going to check again, is this what we're looking for? Unlike the other branch so far where we haven't had anything off the false, there will be an event that will do off the false. But we'll worry about that in a minute. Now we're going to put a reroute into this hit actor. And what we're going to do is, if this hit actor is the correct thing, we can cast to it. And what we need to do first is a bit backwards. Actually, let's make that cast right away. We'll undo that in a second. So we're going to do cast to hidden passage. And we'll do off this as hidden passage, promote to variable. And we'll name this hidden passage ref, so it's a reference to the hidden passage, and I'm just put this in our references folder. And we aren't pinning this up there just yet. So if the person's already looked through this area, then there might already be a hidden passage. We might already have something in there. We might want to have the blockage show back up. So like there are parts in the game where I'm taking this from, so Hellblade, where you want to open a passageway and then close it later on. So the way that works is when we come off of this, we want to check, well, is there something in here? Is this a valid statement? So we're going to take our hidden passage ref right here, and we're going to check, is valid? And you want the one with a question mark, because the one with the question mark includes within it a branch already. If this is true, then what we're going to do, Sorry, actually, let's deal with the if it's not true. If it's not true, then we will cast to this hidden passage. So let's just drag this up here, plug that into the false there. Let's put a reroute into here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's put a reroute into there. And then put a reroute into this blue line as well, just so we can give ourselves some room. Line that up there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to drag this out a bit. Drag that with it so it's a little bit neater. We are going to come up here for a second. Put another reroute in. Just going to drag that down there. And this is just to make things a little bit neater in a moment. You'll see what's going to happen. Off this is valid. We are going to take the blockage and we are going to set it so it has a physical collision and set it to be hidden. So we're going to create a macro for this. But first, we'll do it outside of a macro. We'll do it out here first. So we're going to take our hidden passage reference here. We're just going to get it. We are going to find the blockage. So we're going to get blockage. Now this cube that we have in there currently, and we can change this out for something else later on. Well, we want to set its collision to enabled. So set collision enabled. And if we're setting this to be physically there, then we want to have our physics query no physics collision. Just going to plug that into there for now. And we're going to not worry about cleaning this up because we're going to again collapse this down to a macro. And the other thing I want to do, I'm just going to move this up here so I have the room to do that, is we want to, sorry, just move this over so I have a little bit more room to play with. We want to have a reroute on this pin from blockage. We want to set this actor as visible in the game. To do so, we're going to do set hidden, and we're going to leave new hidden false. And we'll just pass that into there. And put a reroute here. Alright, and the final thing we're going to do is we're going to take this final execute pen and just plug it in down here. I know this looks really messy. Don't worry, it won't in a second. We're going to highlight the two sets here. We're going to highlight our reference to the hidden passage, the blockage, and the two reroute nodes, and we're going to right click and we're going to collapse to macro. Now I'm going to name this macro set blockage true. And I'm just going to bring this down here. And I'm just going to line everything up with that line there. So now that we come in, we check, is there something here? If there is, then we're going to respawn in that blockage, and we're going to give it a physical sort of collision so you can't get past it. If there isn't, and then we are going to cast to the hidden passage again, which will erase this earlier one. If this is not a valid thing, if this is empty, then we're just going to go straight here, cast to that hidden passage, and continue on with the next step. So the next step after this is we're going to set blockage false. So I'm actually just going to duplicate this current node here, and this will be set blockage false. And in the false, the major difference will be, well, we're going to have no collision here. So this will be changed to no collision. Let's also just line these up so it's a bit prettier looking. There we go. And it will be hidden in game. So compile, save that. Go back to your event graph, and in your event graph, we're going to take the set blockage false. We're going to put it here, so there's no blockage anymore. And the next little bit we want to do is, if they're looking through the passageway, actually, let's pause here and test this. Let's make sure this works. Make sure I haven't skipped a step, which I know I have already, so let's go actually take care of that. I've skipped what we're doing in here. So inside our passage key, we haven't actually triggered what comes off this true yet. So we're going to grab our character reference here, and we are going to do trigger C. There we go. And then we need to take care of what's down here on the end. I'm going to break this and actually do this last off the list there. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my character reference here. I'm going to get it, and I'm going to do a end C, which we haven't written yet. I knew I skipped a step. So let's go back in here for a minute. So we have our two of our three events. So we're in our third person character. Our third event is ending this line trace, because right now this is going to continue on and on and on without anything ending it. So the final bit we need to do in here is a custom event. So right click, custom event, is end C. And just like we did in the passage key, we're going to clear and invalidate our timer. So clear and invalidate timer by handle. And our handle is our C passage timer. There we go. Now compile and save this. Go back to your passage key. And we'll do end C here. And just plug that into the true. So that when we end our collision, if it's the character that's walking off of the collision box, it will trigger this end C, and then it will invalidate the timer. Okay, now we should be able to test this. So let's spawn in. Let's actually move the starting character back a fair bit, just so we have a little bit more room to play with. Let's move them all the way back into the shadow here. All right, so I'm going to put in this hidden passage here, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, so it's blocking the staircase, and I'm just going to move it over a little bit. There we go. And I'll put the passage key here, and there's not an orb on this side, so when I rotate this 90 degrees, I want this side that's facing me currently to face the character. And it was 95 degrees. I'm going to try that again. Sorry. 90. And again, I just want to line them up a bit so it's a little bit easier to do this. I did this at 95, didn't I? I did. There we go. Sorry about that. And I'm just going to, as I said, move this so they line up a bit better. And I don't want to start with the character in the collision box. And to show you what's happening, I'm just going to add one more step in real quick. I'm going to have this draw. So I'm going to draw for duration just so you can see what's happening. Going to hit play. All right, here we are. We enter. All right, so we're running into, oh, there it is. You can see that it's drawing. However, there we go. It's finally hit the object and it passes through. However, I can't walk through there because it's too short. Give me a second. Let me just raise this up a tiny bit. That might be helpful. All right, let's try that one more time. You come into the collision box. And we need to get the camera at the right angle, the spine at the right angle. There we go. And there we go. We've hit the wall. And now we can pass through and go up the stairs. So that actually really takes care of the basics of what we're doing. But when we look through here, again, we don't maybe want it to, we maybe want to close that passageway up. We're not looking at it anymore. We want to look at it and close it up. We haven't had the ability to close it yet. So let's go back in and actually close that out. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to come off this false. So let's go into our passage, into our third player. And we are going, actually I should have done it here too, but it takes two steps really. On our false, what we're going to do is we are going to repeat this is valid check. So we're just going to copy that down here. Going to put a reroute in so it's a bit neater looking. There we go. And we're going to check if this is valid, then something's going to happen. If it's not valid, nothing will happen at all. We are going to set our blockage to true again. Sorry, drag your is blockage. Ooh, that's the false. Ignore me. Put the is blockage true in. Plug that into there. And then we're going to trigger our end C. There's our NC. We're triggering it there. And actually, let's go into our set blockage false. We're going to do in here also. Why I haven't done this in the true is because it can be triggered at two different points. Is we're going to put the end C in here as well. So if they have triggered the event that causes them to open the passageway, we don't want them accidentally closing it on themselves. So let's just go test this out. Hit play. Walk into the area. All right, we've triggered the event. We got the passageway open. We can go up the stairs. Let's go back here. And let's look through the wrong way just so you can see what happens when we look the wrong way. Well, let's not let me do it that way. Let's try that way. There we go. We've shot through, we've hit the stairs, and the blockage is back. So this poses a couple of issues for me right now. And let's take care of one of those issues is that we actually wanted to have an overlap event with this box here. So let's go back into our hidden passage. Let's highlight our box, which we need to then go down to our collision. And we need to do we'll do custom. All right, so I'm gonna set that to block for a second. Let's go back here. Let's try it again. There we go. Now it's actually hitting the archway and we can pass through. And we've hit it again. Actually, when we hit it again, it should reclose it. So let's go in here and well, there's a couple of ways to handle that, and one way is to do a check on this and actually have a return value and see is this is true or not. But you could also do it here as well. But we're gonna leave it like this for now because there's another part I want to show you first before we address that. And what we're gonna do is just save everything real quick. Control S save is we're gonna put in another set of this. In fact, I'm just going to copy the two we currently have, so our passage key and our hidden passage, and I have selected the network player start as well. Let me try that again. There we go. And I'm going to just duplicate these by alt clicking and doing this. There we go. I'm going to rotate both of these about 90 degrees. There we go. And I'm going to raise them up, and I'm going to put them on top of these platforms here. It's a little too high. Lower them down. And actually, you know what? We're going to move them so that they're at these 2 points. Now, this isn't going to look pretty. This is just proof of concept. We're going to move this one about there, and I'm going to unselect them and just select this one, and I'm going to move it back. There we go. And likewise, I'm going to move, actually I should just have them both selected for that because I was moving them in the same direction. That way we have room to stand behind it. Let's test this out. We need to get up the stairs, we need to get rid of that passage, we need to get then to that one and open that to get to the far end. So we're going to look through this window, trigger that event, walk through, stand here, trigger that event, and there it goes. You'll notice, however, except for I can't get through here because it's too low down and I'm hitting the box collision, is that this box is back now. Now, that is because, well, when we look at our event graph, it's seeing, oh, hey, this is true. There is something in here. This is valid. So we need to set this blockage to true. What we're going to do to address this is we're going to add in another step. Let's go into our hidden passage first, though. And you can do this either as an array or as a single item. We're going to do it as a single item. First off, let's get rid of these things. We don't need them. We are going to create a new variable, and this will be called triggered by. And this will be of type actor. So type in actor, and we want the one with the full sphere there. And we want this to be we want to be able to edit it anywhere, so we're going to do expose on spawn and select this edit. We're going to compile and save. And let's go back into our window here. We're going to highlight this first blockage. And you'll notice in our defaults, we have this triggered by. And we're going to just take this eyedropper, and we are going to select this passage key here. And then we're going to take this one, oh sorry, not that one. We're going to take this passageway, and we're going to take our eyedropper and select that one. So each one should be triggered by a different passage. So if we come back in here, hit play, come in here, you'll notice that this actually won't work because we skipped a step. We've just set them up. We now need to trigger the system to realize that these only should respond to events occurring in relation to which ones they are triggered by. So to do that, we're going to go into our third person character for a moment, and at the very end of it, we are going to break this for a second. At the very end here, what we're going to do is we're going to have a branch. We're going to go branch, and if this is true, then we will deal with this blockage. We're also going to have something else later on as well that takes care of this. Earlier on they'll take care of this. Now, the condition we're going to have is we want to know this. We want to know if the triggering actor is the same. So we're going to add a new variable in. This will be called triggering actor, and this will be of type actor. And we want to know, is the hidden passage triggering actor the same as this triggering actor? Also, I'm going to get rid of that extra capital C. Sorry about that. So we're going to do off of here. Actually, sorry, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to hit our pit. We're going to get our hidden passage. We are going to do triggered by. We're going to get that. I'm just going to drag this back a little bit. And then we're going to check, is this equal to this triggering actor? Now, how do we know what this triggering actor is? We haven't set it anywhere. And that's actually the part that we're going to have to take care of earlier on in this blueprint and in another blueprint as well. So let's go up to our trigger C. Let's just move this all over here for a second, and let's break that there. And on trigger C, we're going to add in a new input, and this will be our triggering actor. And this will be of type actor. There we go. And we're going to set it here. And then we're going to pass it into there. Now, our triggering actor is firing. We need to know, is this where are we getting this information from? Well, if you remember, the trigger C is triggered by the passage key. So if we go into here now, you'll notice there is this new input here that it needs. So we're going to add our input there to tell it, hey, this is what you're targeting, and it's going to be self. Now, this still might not work. We still might need another step in. But let's test it and see if this doesn't break it before we add that step in. Can we still get rid of that passageway, assuming this will actually fire? There we go. Gets rid of it. Let's go up here, and let's fire this one off. And you notice it comes back. So we need one more step. Also, while I'm thinking about this, let's actually just move this up a tiny bit so we can walk through it at the end. There we go. So the part that's missing, let's go back to our third person character, is actually fairly simple. It's this. We're missing this. So what we could do is we can actually delete this from here, or actually cut it from there, not delete it, sorry, cut it from there, and we can put it somewhere else. So let's just take a look at what we have in here. We have our hidden passage, and we have our triggering actor. So if this is valid, what we want to do is we're going to plug it into here where this is valid bit is set. And let's just drag all of this out so we have the room to do that. I'm actually going to put another reroute in here. And I'm going to unhighlight these two. I'm just going to give myself a bit of room to play with. Actually, I shouldn't, if I unhighlighted that, move that down a bit further. And we're just going to set these about there. And we're going to plug these. Oh, we actually need more room. Sorry, I'm just moving those back a bit. There we go. It should be more than enough room, but if it isn't, we can change things up. So if that's true, then we're going to carry through with all of this. I'm just going to raise that up just so it looks a little bit neater. And then I'm going to close up everything we've just spaced out a fair amount there. And we actually have another issue that I know is going to come up. And instead of making you guys wait through to see what's going to happen, I'm just going to tell you. So if we look through here, we'll get rid of that blockage, yes. But if we look through here, that blockage won't go away. And the reason it won't go away is we have a variable we haven't properly overwritten. So what we need to do is actually clear that variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this triggering actor and we're going to set it here as well. That way it's now an empty variable. So we hit compile and play and walk in here, get the angle right, we see through it, there goes that passage, we can go through it now, we can do the same here. Well, we are hitting it, but it's not getting rid of this blockage. Okay, so let's see what's going on there. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to come through here, we're going to get rid of this first blockage. Awesome. We're going to hit Shift F1 to get our mouse back, and we're going to go into our character view here, and we are going to just set this conditional I already know what's going wrong. We want to also take the false and go past here and plug into there. So we're just going to put a reroute in just so we can see what's going on. Now it should work. There we go. Get the angle right. There we go. And the angle really should be based on the camera position as well. And there we go. And both passageways are open. Alright, so that means that we can get through both these passageways now. We can also then close one of them off. We can look the wrong direction in this. Oh, sorry, we actually need to set that part up. I said we were going to do that, and it's going to be an if statement here. So we're just going to break this for a second. And we're just going to move this down this way. We're going to open this passage false up. And we are going to just put a new variable here. And this will be a Boolean variable. And we're just going to automatically set this to true. And this will be is open. Compile and save it. Go back to the event graph. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to actually create a new variable for that. We're going to do a new variable here called is open. This will be a type bool. We're going to set it here. We're going to set it to true. And we're going to pass it into here. And we're going to just plug that in. We're going to then go to our false version of this. Sorry, our true version of this. So the blockage is now back in play. We're going to put that is open there. And it's going to be false. So it gets reset by which one of these gets triggered. Compile and save. Go back to the event graph. We're going to do a branch here. And actually, we don't need this as a control statement on that. We can actually get rid of that. And if it's true, if it is open, then we want to close it. So if it's not true, if it's false, then we want to open that passageway up. So if it isn't already open, then we want to open it. If it is open, then we want to set this to true. We want to block it out again. Actually, we don't need to do anything. It's already been blocked out here. So all we're going to do is take this bool value, and I'm going to put it in a category that I'm just going to call bool, so it's separated out a bit. And I'm just going to plug that into, the turn radius. I'm going to take the is open and plug it into there. There we go. Just going to bring that down there a bit. And that should now work. We do also want to, however, if this is true, that was the wrong thing. We want to clear that triggering actor. There we go. I'll walk in here. There we go. You got rid of it. Can walk through. Go back this way. And let's trigger it again. Okay. Now, yes, we actually do need to have that false in there because we've reset this is open, so it automatically sees it as, yeah. So we are just going to do false over here, drag that into there, and plug this in. And we actually do want on this one a call to our end C. Actually, we want that to happen after we clear the trigger there. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to clear that trigger elsewhere. We're going to clear at the end C, because that's when everything ends, and everything that relates to each other should be grouped together. So we're going to take this and we're going to put the trigger actor here so it clears at this point instead. There we go. Go into here, trigger this off. There we go. Walk through the passageway, walk back around, avoid the trigger box on the wrong side, and we're looking through it. Alright, let's put a breakpoint in and see what's happening. So we'll do that actually after we get it to remove the first time. There we go. Remove it the first time. Control F1 or Shift F1. Go back here, enable breakpoint, and then go back into the system. Alright, now we have triggered it. Control F1 to actually get into our event graph. And we're going to go step frame. Is this valid? It should be. So it's going to check. You can see that's the if statement in there. It is valid. So we go here. We see that that's true. So we go into the set blockage. We should have query only. We should set it to visible. We should set that to is open. Go back into here. And first off, I have the wrong thing up here anyway. So this is both set to true. That's not right. First off, one of these needs to be, sorry, these are both set to false. One of them needs to be true. So grab that, put that in there. So what we want to know is this open? If it is not open, then, all right, we had these backwards, that's all. And actually in here, what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this. This is part of the problem. There we go. This is just a slight difference than what I had in my test version, which is why we're running into the slight problem. So if this is true, then we want it to close the passage. So we're going to actually reverse what we just did here a second ago. Sorry about that, guys. So if this is true, if it is open already, then we want to set the blockage to true. We want to block the passageway. If it is not already open, then we want to set it there. And at this point is where we'll reset the is open, and we're only going to set it there. As false, that is. There we go. I forgot to remove the block breakpoint, so when this fires off, we'll have that little break. We'll hit Shift F1, resume. All right, passageway is open. Come back in, and Shift F1, hit resume, and the blockage is back in place. All right, there we go. That takes care of the basics. Clearly, I can walk around and get to the next one easily. But that shows you the basics of it. Now let's see what this looks like inside a game world. So I'm just going to Control Shift save everything real quick, and then I am going to go into my sort of test file for this. So this is called gates. This is what you guys saw at the beginning. So, you know, this is the environment we have. All right, so to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take our blueprints from here, and we're going to, first off, let's go to our passage key. Let's get rid of what's in our static meshes. Let's just clear this. We don't need anything in there, and we're going to clear this. We actually don't need anything in that right now. So this passage view will be gateway. There we go. I'm going to compile this. And I'm just going to bring the gateway in. Actually, maybe I do want that sphere here for now, just so I have a reference for myself. So I'm going to take that material sphere, still at the right size. You see things are a tiny bit off, so you have to size the things for your meshes. There we go. And what we're going to do is actually we're going to go to front view here. Sorry, right view. And we're going to just move this out, moving everything else so it's centered on that collision box. And we're going to move this right there. Alright, now let's go to perspective. And we can move this back a bit. So if you remember in Hellblade, there's a skull that hangs on the front side. That's all that is. That skull is that front view portion. So we're going to take this gateway here, and we're just going to replace it with our new passage key. So let's just line these up. Let's rotate this around. 180 if it'll let me. There we go. And then we're just going to bring this back to about there. There we go. Okay. So, which gateway is that? It's gateway 2. Gateway 1's up there. And we can delete gateway. There we go. Let's test it. Make sure we're still firing off our array when we're facing the right direction. There, you can see it come off. It's firing a bit. There we go. Coming from the center is what I wanted. So we're going to want to put a blockage in this area. And so we're going to do the same thing we just did a second ago. We are going to put in the blockage on that point. To take care of that blockage, what we're going to do is we're going to go into this hidden passageway, and we're going to clear out all those meshes again, but we're not going to put anything in this one. So we're just going to clear. Let's go into our viewport, make sure everything gets cleared out. And we're going to clear this one as well. Remember, this passageway is an optional one. We don't need anything in there. It's this blockage we care about more than anything else. So let's Control S, save everything. Put that into the world here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to drag that forward a bit. We're going to rotate it so that the mesh collides, the collision box that is, collides with the mesh of this tower here. And we're going to select the blockage. And in the blockage, we're going to add in a rock. There we go. Now that rock is something we can easily walk around, isn't it? So what we're going to do for this rock is, well, we're going to just move it. If we're going to undo that, we're going to increase the scale of it. So we're going to make it 3 by 3 by 3. So that a large rock is, blocking this passageway. So when we hit play, we walk over here, and we look through. There we go. It clears that rock out. We can now go up the stairs. And the next thing we need to do is get this passageway, or that passageway there, to, actually trigger an event down here, which will cause a bridge to spawn in. So that's going to be what's a little bit different than our blockage. So what we're going to do is we are going to check if this blockage is a null pointer now, if there is nothing in there to begin with. So if we, actually no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to create a second event. So we have this set up already. We're just going to duplicate this, and this will be spawn hidden path. Let's just call it that for now. And in spawn hidden path, what we're going to do is we are going to, we have this set up. We don't need the blockage. We just need the box. Yeah, Yeah, actually, we might want a static mesh of, marker of some sort. We're just going to put a marker in, and this will be, again, a static mesh. Let's make it a gateway, just because then it kind of fits with the motif of what we're going for. Let's move that to the center of the collision sort of point there. So we create a gateway that can walk through once this thing spawns in. And what's going to happen is, because there isn't, if you look at our third person character, there isn't anything for it to remove here. What we're going to do is we're going to add in a new check. And that is, we're going to extend this out a bit. And we're going to just drag this all the way down here, like that. And we're going to have another false. So, that is the first check we want. But we do want to do something else if this is false. We're just going to break that for a second. And what we want to do is we want to do another branch. We're going to actually get rid of that reroute. And off this branch, this false, we'll take care of that down there. I'm just going to move all of this down here. And we're going to have another check. We're going to put a reroute here. And we're going to do equal. And the class we're going to search for in this one is spawn hidden path. And if that is true, then we're going to kind of have the same sort of pattern we've had here. But to make this a bit neater, instead what we're going to do is we're actually going to break this. What we're going to do is we're going to break all of this, and we are going to just move this out of the way for half a second. Off our hit actor, what we're going to do is we are going to promote to variable, and we'll name this hit actor. That way we can call it when needed. We're going to go here, and then we are going to do something very simple. We are going to check, is this hit actor, just like we had earlier, is this hit actor the passageway, or is it his spawn passageway? We're just going to plug that into there. If it is the passageway, what we're going to do then is we're going to delete this. We're going to delete this. And we're going to do a custom event. We're going to take all of this. We're just going to move this all the way over here. And this we're going to have a custom event here called reveal passage. Plug that into there. And then we are going to trigger reveal passage here. I'm sure I spelled that wrong, but I will worry about that later on. And for our cast, because this won't work until we update our cast there, we are going to add in the hit actor. There we go. So if it is this event here, we'll do that instead. If, however, I'm just going to put a reroute in here because I don't plan on getting rid of that. It isn't that and it's the passageway. We're going to do another custom event that will be spawn passage. So we'll do that here. Spawn passage. There we go. So now we have these two checks. If it's neither of these, then it's going to get rid of the hidden passage. Now what we should probably do is actually have another check in here, but it doesn't really matter. We're not going to get rid of the bridge. Mostly because I don't remember at any point in Hellblade a bridge being removed once you've spawned it in. So we're going to then check so we're going to cast to this actor. We don't need to do this check because we're only going to do this once. So we're going to cast to our spawn hidden path. And we're going to spawn again from our hit actor. So plug that into there. And what we're going to do is we are going to spawn in actor from class. So we will spawn in actor from class. Actually, we don't even need this cast. We can just skip that. We're going to spawn actor from class. That's all we need. And the class we're going to spawn from, we do actually need a bit of room, is the bridge. So this is just my gray box bridge I've made. It is made out of just 3 meshes. That's all. So it is made out of 3 meshes. It's not something I'd actually use in a production quality thing. It is just here to show the premise. So I'm going to do a make transform, and I'm going to do make vector here. Actually, I could just plug the values in since I know what they are. It's going to be 963, -538, and finally it's going to be 53 on the Z. And my Z rotation is the only other rotation it's going to change. Is going to be 10 degrees with a lot of zeros, 0.229. I tested these numbers out earlier to know that they work. Alright, so let's compile that. And now let's go into our gates map here. I know based on where I have things placed that I kind of want this spawn hidden path in this area. I'm going to just set it here. It should approximate where I want to actually spawn in at. It's not going to be perfect. Also, I want this above ground so I can walk through it. And then I want to move it just over here. There we go. Just angle that. That looks about right. So just to save time, I'm going to start the play up here by spawning in up here. And we're going to look down that way. This might not be long enough. Oh, well, hang on. We skipped a step. We need this to be triggered by our gate up here. There we go. Of course, this isn't the right gateway. Let's get rid of it. Yes, I know. We want to get our passage key gate into here instead. And actually, I'm going to undo that delete because I'm just going to copy this in here. And I'm going to take this gateway's information once I get it back on screen, and I'm going to copy and paste it directly into this new gateway here. Boom. Keep just pasting it in. Why is it all the way over there? Interesting. That has not gone to the correct spots. I see why. There we go. I'm not sure why it did that. I don't know if it just copied the wrong gateway. And then let's get the rotation off of this. So it's a -70 degrees. There we go. Now, what is the difference between the two still? 1170. Why? Ooh, don't do that. Why don't you want to get into your spot? Do you not like your spot? There we go. We're just going to move it this way and then bring it back a bit. It's a little bit off because the sizing of the meshes isn't quite right, but it gives you a rough idea of what we're looking to do. Let's delete this old one. Yes, we want to delete that. And then we want to take this current mesh down here, and we want to use the eyedropper and attach it to the new gateway here. We want to spawn in our character here. Walk over this way. Alright, so small problem with this is the height at which everything is set. So we are going to take this collision box, this unique collision box here, and we're actually going to increase the height to 10. That should give us, not enough actually. We're going to do 25, and that should be enough. Should give the feel of that we're actually looking through that there, and there you can see the bridge is in. I might have spawned it in the wrong spot. Okay, so we need to move this into the grass, unfortunately. Sorry about that. There we go. Now let's get back into here and test it one more time. There we go. And now we can get across the river. You can pause and take a look at the river. You can now walk across the bridge. Now if you notice, we can't just walk across the river. So if we were to play this in full, just like I showed at the start, oops, sorry, I started on the wrong side. So we don't have a player start. It is going to start wherever you spawn in. We spawn in here. We need to get across the river, but you know, we just can't walk over it. We're blocked from doing so by blocking volumes. So we then look through here. We get rid of that blockage. We then walk up the stairs through this broken tower we have, and then we look through here. And we spawn the bridge in because we're looking at the right point. We walk across the bridge, and yay, we're on the other side. So that shows you the rough idea of how to set up these hidden passages. I hope you guys have found this tutorial slightly helpful. Sorry about the confusion towards the beginning part where I just skipped that step. And if you like this video, hit that like button down below. If there's anything in particular you want to see me do a tutorial of, go ahead and, you know, let me know down in the comments as well. I'm also running an RTS tutorial series, so go ahead and check that out. There should be a link to that and the end card here. And I hope to see you in my other videos, and I also hope that you have a wonderful day.